This behind me is a 3,500-year-old Egyptian obelisk, but as you can probably tell, this isn't Egypt. It's Central Park in New York City, where what's known as Cleopatra's Needle has stood for almost 150 years, since the Egyptian government gave it to the US as a gift to celebrate the opening of the Suez Canal. And while the Egyptians have occasionally raised the issue of whether it's being cared for properly, there's never been a serious dispute about who owns it or where it should properly stand. But for thousands of other objects from the ancient and non-Western world, the situation could not be more different.
Museums across Europe and the United States are crammed with thousands of works from classical antiquity, pre-Columbian Latin America, Africa, the Middle East, and Asia that were pillaged, stolen, or taken under otherwise suspect circumstances. And today, many governments in those regions want those artworks back. One of the most famous cases is the dispute over the Parthenon Marbles, sometimes called the Elgin Marbles, at the British Museum.
A diplomatic row has broken out tonight between the British and Greek governments over the Elgin Marbles.
In November, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak cancelled a planned meeting with his Greek counterpart after Kyriakos Mitsotakis publicly lobbied for the marbles' return on the BBC.
This is a reunification argument. It's as if I told you that you would cut the Mona Lisa in half.
Here's the backstory. In 1801, when the Ottomans ruled Greece, British Ambassador Thomas Bruce, known as Lord Elgin, got local permission to take back to London a series of the sculptures from the Parthenon, which at the time lay largely in ruins. But in 1835, after the Greeks won independence, they demanded the marbles be sent back to Athens. London refused, and the battle has raged for nearly 200 years since. There are legal questions, but the debate is really about something more than that.
This case is really a moral or ethical case. I think it's gone beyond the legal boundaries of this dispute. It really is about who is the better owner.
Art repatriation expert Leila Amineddoleh says this question of who owns art has become more political in recent years. And now, elite institutions are undergoing a reckoning over their Indiana Jones-style acquisition tactics of the past.
Should museums hold on to objects that were taken under either violent circumstances or were taken during a time of looting and theft, or a time when a country was colonized and perhaps didn't have control over the artifacts within its borders?
Critics of sending the works back say it's important to have museums where everyone can come see art from all over the world. And some worry about a slippery slope towards depleting the collections of major institutions entirely. But advocates of repatriation argue that for European and American institutions to keep these artifacts is a form of imperialism and appropriation that denies rightful ownership to the cultures that created them in the first place.
I think these marbles are a symbol of Greece, but I think they're more than that. I think the Parthenon marbles have become a symbol of this cultural heritage debate about ownership.
In recent years, several major museums have agreed to voluntarily repatriate artworks. The Smithsonian, for example, reached an agreement with Nigeria to return 29 bronze sculptures that had been looted during a 19th century British raid. But who those rightful owners are isn't always obvious. The US-based Restitution Study Group, for example, sued to block the Smithsonian deal, arguing that those sculptures are the cultural heritage of African-American descendants of the slaves brought from what is today Nigeria, rather than the property of the Nigerian government itself.
In the end, these fights over art and artifacts are really struggles over a deeper question, a question of identity, of who we are and where we're from, especially when we're far from home. In today's world, nothing is more political than that. For GZERO World, I'm Alex Kliment, AKA the Pharaoh.